Morning, everyone. My name is Mohammad Thoriq Bahri. I'm a second year Ph.D. student at the Faculty of Law and Political Sciences, University of Szeged, Hungary. Today, I want to explain to you about my research proposal, which I already made, which titled Social and Legal Challenge in Refugee Handling, the comparison between Hungary and Indonesia. So in this presentation, we'll be using this kind of structure. First, we're going to talk about the backgrounds to identify the problem between the both country. And the second, we're going to analyze the risk gap with the literature review. And the third, we're going to make our research questions. How important is this research? And the fourth, we're going to explain you about the methodology which used in this research. And the last one, the references. So first is the background, why this research is very important for us. So before I will explain to you about the backgrounds, I want to explain to you first about who is the asylum seeker. So there is a big difference between the asylum seeker and the refugee itself. So asylum seeker can be described as the person who's saying that he or she is a refugee, right? But their status is not recognized yet by the authorized bodies, like the UNHCR, for example. So after their application to becoming refugees is accepted by the UNHCR, they will becoming a refugees. The second one, we have to know who is the refugees. So the refugees itself is the person who are under persecution and voluntarily leave their origin country. So if in their country there is a war or any conflicts and they need to leave their country, they will seek for the international protection, especially in their human rights basis. And the difference with the asylum seeker, their status as refugees is already declared by the relevant institution. For example, like I was mentioned before, is the UNHCR. So why is it so important? As you know, start in 2011, when the Arab Spring movement is pushing people to leave their origin countries, because you know the Arab Spring movement is happening in more than 5 Arabic countries and is create the mass fleet of their people to the another country. And then after that, the problem is becoming complicated. It make one of the biggest refugees country in the century. So in the 2015, more than 1 million asylum seekers from the Middle East and the North Africa country like Libya, they moved into the EU territories during that time. And not only the EU territories or the European Union territory, most of them also moved to the Southeast Asia country. Why? You know, most of them are Muslim, and most of Southeast Asian countries are Muslim as well. So there is a religion similarity, and most of the refugee think if they move to the Southeast Asia country, they will be acceptable to the several Southeast Asia countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, or Singapore. And one of the facts we never forget is till now, more than 82.4 million people are possibly displaced worldwide. So after the Arab Spring event and the AU refugee crisis, which happened in 2015, is getting worse. And from the 2015 to present, the ASEAN country or Southeast Asian country, including Indonesia, is becoming asylum seeker and refugees destination country. So there is a little bit fact about the asylum seeker worldwide, which is worldwide more than 4.1 million people is asylum seeker, and only less than 2%, as you know, less than 2% is already resettled, which means most of the asylum seeker and the refugees itself is still in uncertain condition till now. So they still live in the transiting country like Hungary and Indonesia. And 1.1 million person also claims as refugees and in 2020 only. And the last one, it will becoming potential big problem in the future. 1 million children born as asylum seeker worldwide, which means they can be stateless or they will not have any passport from any country. So what will happen? What the effect of the European refugee crisis to Indonesia? As the fact you can see in the picture uh, as I show you here, the number of asylum seekers and refugees who entering Indonesia is almost increased yearly. If we can see here, from 2011, only about 1,000 person who entering Indonesia. But in 2018, till now, the number is keeping increases 10 times, from 1,000 to 10,000. And the resettlement acceptance rate is very low, is under 5% yearly, which means most of them are live in Indonesia territory till now without any certainty. So we didn't know till when they will live in Indonesia as transiting country. Why I told you Indonesia is transiting country? Because till now, Indonesia is not signatory for the 1951 Genoa Convention about the refugees. So it will be becoming a potentially big problem in the future. So I will next to the next part, which is the literature review. So the movement of people to leave their country is still dominated by the war and conflicts from the World War II to present. And the post-World War II phenomenon, which is called the war flow, is becoming basis for 1951 Refugee Convention, and is still very applicable and very relevant if we use that 1951 Convention in today refugee handling policy. And the next one, the EU or European Union and the Hungary experience in the refugees handling. You know, the EU and the Hungary can be concluded as successful country to minimize the effect of the refugee crisis in 2015 because they have very good legal basis. The first one is the Central European Asylum System, or CEAS. So the European Union have the system which is called the CEAS to minimize the effect of the refugee crisis in 2015. By one of the proposing administered solution is the quota system to distribute the asylum seeker and refugees to their member states, which successfully relocate 120,000 of the asylum seeker. However, Hungary is reject the quota system, which proposed by the European Union Parliament. However, they are reject, but Hungary is still receiving 2.1% of their citizen ratio of the asylum seeker and refugees as their citizen in Hungary till now. So actually, we can see here we already have several legal bases in international migrant protection. The first one, of course, is the 1951 Geneva Convention, which focus in the protection of the refugees, including the non-refoulement principles, which means if you entering a country with signatory with 1951 Geneva Convention of Refugees signatory, they cannot be sent back to their country. And the second one is 1967 Protocol, which removing the geographical proximity of the 1951 Geneva Convention territory. So this 1951 Geneva Convention is abolished worldwide after the 1967 Protocol is ratified. And the third one is International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, which gives the right for the people to leave their home country for better economic prosperity. And the last one is the Convention of the Protection of the Right of all Migrants, Workers, and Members of their families, which means the people who leave their country because of the economic or another reason, they will be guaranteed the international protection, not only for them, but also for their family. So there is a little bit brief about the situation of the refugee handling policy in Indonesia. First, Indonesia is not ratified the 1951 Refugee Convention, which mean right? Because we don't ratify the 1951 Refugee Convention, actually Indonesia don't have any responsibility to provide any protection for the asylum seeker and refugees who entering Indonesia territory. And the second one, no status determination. You know, like because we are not, and because Indonesia is not ratified of 1951 Refugee Convention, which means Indonesia cannot determine the status of refugees, which means Indonesia must wait for the UNHCR uh, UNHCR uh, determination to give them the refugee status. And the third one, no existing legal basis, which means in many of the government regulations, government acts, even the immigration regulation of Indonesia, most of them are not mentioned about who is the asylum seeker, who is the refugees, which means they will treated as the undocumented migrants, and then they will send to the detention center. And the last one is the high number of transnational crime, the unregulated asylum seeker and refugees, resulting in increasing number of human trafficking and people smuggling in Indonesia. Counted from 2015 till 2021, the increased number of cases is reaching 115%. It's very high number actually. And what the impact if you don't have the proper regulation in addressing the asylum seeker and refugees handling policy? First, will be a human rights violation, because the one of the solution for addressing the asylum seeker and refugees is only to send them to the detention center. And the second, there is no basic access, no legal status of them, which means they will not have any access to work, to the proper shelter, and even to access the school or the access to the education. And the third one is the forced return, because Indonesia is not signatory of 1951 Geneva Convention, which means we can send them back to their home country. And the last one is the stateless children. So the people or the who getting married in Indonesia territory and they have children here, their children will becoming stateless. And there is a research question which I developed from the several previous literature review. First is how the government of Hungary handled the mass influx of asylum seekers and refugees during the period of 2015 to 2020. The second one, what is the legal basis which used by the government of Hungary to address the asylum seeker and refugees who entering Hungary in period of 2015 to 2020. The third one, what are the social challenges which faced by the Hungarians during the asylum seeker and refugees mass influx in the period of 2015 to 2020. And the fourth one, what is the legal and social policy implication into the human rights protection to the asylum seeker and refugees in Hungary. And the fifth, what is the legal basis which used by the government of Indonesia to address the asylum seeker and refugees who entering Indonesia in period of 2015 to 2020. The sixth, what are the social challenges which faced by the Indonesian during the asylum seeker and refugees mass influx in the period of 2015 to 2020. And the last one, what is the future problem which will face by the Indonesia relating to the asylum seeker and refugees handling policy? So I will move to the methodology part of this research. So for this research, I will use the qualitative approach with the literature analysis as the analysis method. And the second one as the research explanation. This research using the comparative legal research methodology, which involve critical analysis of different bodies of law to examine how the outcome of a legal issue could be different under each sets of law. And this is the research timeline, as you can see here. So first, the consultation and discussion with the supervisor is already conducted in April. And the second one is conducting the literature review to identify the research gap, also already conducted in April. And the third is identification of a research problem and drafting the structure of the research proposal is already conducted in April. And conducting the literature review and the data collection is still in progress from this month to June. And the fifth is analyze the collected literature and conduct the data analysis. It will be conducted in July. The final result of drafting for the consultation purposes will be turned in to the supervisor and co-supervisor in October. And the last one, the finalization of the research manuscript review and consultation will be conducted in November and December. Okay, thank you for your attention. Please give me some critics, opinion, or revision from your perspective. Thank you for your time and attention.